page as far as I remember. Started? Okay. Very good. Petrol lobbies. So this article specifically about Union Minister Nitin Gadkari. So he is promoting this E20 fuel. And I had discussed about this E20 fuel earlier also. Any idea? Anyone remembers? What is this E20? Very good. Ethanol blending. We are mixing ethanol with petrol. Why are we doing that? To reduce what? Greenhouse gas emission. Imports of petroleum products like crude oil and natural gas as such. So you see what we are trying to do, understand the scenario in which we are and where we want to go. That's when you understand the policy of government. What is the direction? We are almost completely dependent on some sources for our electricity and for our other vehicles, like vehicles that we are using that requires energy. We need electricity. Electricity is a form of energy. So when we use this word energy, okay, so there we are dependent on some sources. Now as far as electricity is concerned, most of our electricity comes from coal-based thermal power plants, right? Coal-based. So there you are using coal, and when you burn the coal, there will be emission of some gases which are not good for us, right? Now when you look at our vehicles and all, because most of the carbon emission that we see, one of the major source is our vehicles, two-wheeler, four-wheeler, whichever vehicle you look at, right? There we are using petrol, diesel, etc. Now petrol, diesel is coming from the fossil fuels, right? So when you burn them, there will be emission of gases, especially the carbon gases, right? So this is happening, we know this. Now concerns are, number one, because we don't have crude oil reserves in India, much crude oil reserves as such, we are dependent on other countries. How much dependent? 80% of our energy needs, this crude oil needs, that we get from other countries. Right now we are buying more from Russia, sometimes we buy more from Iraq, sometimes we buy more from Iran. That's a different case, but we are dependent on other countries. We don't have that, right? And when you are dependent, then you are vulnerable. Now America is threatening if you buy from Russia. If you buy from Iran, that also America doesn't like. If you buy from Venezuela, they don't like. So we stopped buying from Venezuela and Iran because of US pressure, right? So you'll always be vulnerable. That's one part. Second, you have to spend so much amount of money to import that fuel, that crude oil. So much amount of money you have to spend every year. Rather than every year, it's everyday affair, we can say, right? And third is this climate change, global warming. This is a major issue which is a present issue right now, and we all have to deal with it. Now considering all these problems, one of the solution, because where do we want to go? We want to go to a time when we don't depend on this crude oil. We don't depend on any such source which leads to this carbon emission or greenhouse gas emission, and any such source for which we have to pay a lot of amount to other countries. Okay, so one of the solution, see, we have to reach there, but it's not possible to reach there in one go, like in one step we will go there. So step by step we can move ahead. Can you, let's say we make something, let's say we make electric vehicles, let's say we say now we will use electric vehicles. Is it possible? Tomorrow onwards no one will use this bike, whichever bike you have parked over here, you can't use that. Are you going to buy a new bike tomorrow? That's not possible. It will take some time. So slowly they are bringing electric vehicles also. Right now the vehicles that you have, what government is trying to do, instead of using complete petrol, use 20% of ethanol in it. We will mix ethanol in the petrol. That is the ethanol blending program of government. So actually this was the experiment made in Brazil, after which Indian government thought about it. And when Atal Bihari Vajpayee was Prime Minister, at that time it was being thought of that we can go for such a program. And right now we are implementing it. Okay, we are implementing in a very good way. Okay, last time when we discussed this part, that we are implementing in a very good way. Now what this article is specifically talking about, they're saying that there are some companies who benefit from petrol, diesel, all these sources, right? And they don't like this thing because you're reducing their consumption, you're reducing their business. So this petrol lobby, what they are trying to do, they are trying to create some misinformation campaign against this E20 fuel. Some wrong information will be spread in social media so that people should not go for this E20 fuel. So this is something being highlighted over here, creating some fear in the minds of people and going against the government policy. So that's something he's highlighting. Okay? But government is very clear, and I don't find any problematic stuff in this. This misinformation campaign is there, okay, some people will do that. Government is doing what they need to do in this case. Okay? So that's it. Ethanol blending. Now there is something you must know. This part. Number one thing, this E20 fuel, it is compatible with many vehicles. Okay, many of the vehicles that we have, it is compatible with that. But there are some concerns. Number one, those vehicles which are very old ones, some of them will not be compatible with this fuel. So what you need to do is you have to scrap those vehicles. If you are blending petrol and this ethanol, you can't use it in those older vehicles. That is one problem. Second, it might reduce the mileage of the vehicle. Nobody is going to ask this thing. It's just for the knowledge part, just to understand the drawbacks of this thing. So 5%, 6% they are saying, and it might increase the maintenance cost. So maintenance cost, you people know, for vehicle we go for like every few months we go to the service center, right? So some maintenance cost is there. They're saying when you use such a fuel, the maintenance cost increases to some extent. Again, very minor thing considering the good impact it might bring. If we compare with that, it's just a minor impact. Okay? Any doubt on this? No? Next. Editorial. Who is the writer? Our favorite, Dr. Shashi Tharoor. So, good article. I would suggest read this article on your own if you understand good English. Now see what he is talking about. He's talking about geopolitics and geoeconomics, specifically with respect to China and India's relationship. Not relationship per se, but rather China's own interest and how China is taking some actions against India. Now, what do you people understand by geopolitics and geoeconomics? You have heard these terms, if I am not wrong. Yes? But we don't know, sir. One is politics, sir. One is economics, sir. Done, sir. Why there is geo? Is there geography? Huh? They have put the word geo, that means there must be something like geography, na? Common sense? Common sense is not very common. Huh? Relation between different countries. That's international relations. Yes? So we use these terms, geopolitics and geoeconomics. Even we use that geostrategic, such terms also. Just understand the basic thing. Basic thing is geopolitics. The relations between different countries or the foreign policy of different countries. What is the most important factor of a foreign policy of any country? Let's say I tell you the name of any country. How would you decide what kind of foreign policy that country will have? Will it be based on the dominating religion and in that region? Will it depend on how much educated these people are in that country? What is that one factor which will dominate? That is my question. If you are understanding my question, the foreign policy of that country, will they be very aggressive towards, like Russia, you see. Russia is very aggressive, right? Chinese policy you see, American policy you see, India's policy you see. No, will not attack anyone. Whatever the foreign policy is, my point is, what is that one major factor which decides what will be your foreign policy? Or rather than factor, I must say, what's that logic? National interest. But how would you decide national interest? So, studies of international relations focus on this one idea of geopolitics. When they use geopolitics, they say geo means geography, they are saying. They clearly say, some scholars directly say, you tell me the geography of a country, I'll tell you the foreign policy of that country. You just tell me the location of that country. Then I'll tell you entire foreign policy of that country. So geopolitics clearly claims that the geography of that country will decide its foreign policy. If you are a country in the Middle Eastern region, if you are a country having so many natural gas resources, so much crude oil, then your foreign policy will be of a different kind. If your location is like Afghanistan, every country will try to come to your place. Every country will try to control your area. And because of that, you will be destroyed. If you are having lot of resources like in Africa, entire world will try to come and exploit those resources. Okay. You look at American foreign policy. Do you see any American neighbor who is going to threaten America? Because on both sides there is only water, 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 and in the north there is Canada, in the south there is Mexico, not so powerful, no tension. Now compare this with Russia. Are they so secure? Do you see the geography of Russia of that kind which gives them leverage? No, so many countries share border with Russia. Problematic stuff. Same is the case with China to some extent. Yes. Now if your location is like Pakistan, why Western countries are so much interested in Pakistan? They don't leave Pakistan at all. Even Britain was so interested in Pakistan. They ensured that India is partitioned and this area remains in touch with us because of the location of Pakistan. So geopolitics will clearly say this thing, that your geography matters, your location, the resources you have, the kind of geography you hold. Everything matters a lot in deciding what kind of foreign policy you will have. Even you have neighbors, as I said last time, like this geopolitical theory will say, if there is a neighbor, then you will fight with that neighbor. Your neighbor is your natural enemy. That's the saying in the realist geopolitical terms, right? So geopolitically right now, if you see, there is a fight between USA and China, right? US and China are in geopolitical conflict. US wants to remain the #1 power, remain as hegemon, want to control the entire world according to his will. That's American choice. And what China is doing, China is challenging that. America wants Middle East to work the way America wants. America wants entire Asia to work the way they want. What China is doing, China is building Belt and Road Initiative, giving debt to so many countries. Now when you give so much debt to some country, that country will listen to you. America is not liking it. Why this is happening? Because China is emerging economically and America is declining slowly, slowly. Although right now America is top, but slowly declining, and this one is growing, not slowly, very fastly, right? That's why we see the rivalry. Now come to Asia. When you come to Asia, you see similar geopolitical rivalry between China and India, right? See, China, we don't know whether China is planning to become the #1 in the world, superpower in every aspect. But at least in Asia, we know that China wants that status, right? Now look at this thing, which country poses threat to China. Now especially this article, Shashi Tharoor talks about India's manufacturing sector. Look what happened before 2020. China was having good relations with many countries. Since 2020, suddenly many things changed. 2020 was the year when COVID happened. Suddenly entire world realized that we are so much dependent on China. China is the manufacturing hub of the entire world. Any part of the world, if there is any company, there is a company in America, when they are manufacturing something, that manufacturing will happen in China, because it is happening with very low cost. Okay, so with the time China has built that and they became the manufacturing hub of the world. And when this COVID-19 happened, suddenly the world realized they are so much dependent on China. And China is growing, and they are also becoming very assertive, and it's very risky. It's very risky. This is what they understood, especially USA understood, India understood. Now, as I said, conflict is between US and China. What US policy has been after that, since 2020 specifically, they are trying to decouple their economy from China. Right now, American economy is dependent on China. They can't, see, they are putting tariff on India 50%, Brazil 50%, other countries 15%, 10%, 20%. How much on China? They put the tariff on China, but they said we will put some pause on it. We will have some negotiation. Why? Because China also knows you are also dependent on me. They'll suddenly stop supply of some rare earth metals or something. What will America do? India does not have that leverage. Even if they put tariff, we can't say that we will not supply this to you, do whatever you want. We can't say that. We don't have that leverage. China has that leverage. Russia doesn't matter. There's no trade between US and Russia, so there's hardly any trade. Doesn't matter. Getting the point? So rivalry is there. US's plan is to decouple the economy. That means slowly, slowly. Suddenly you can't do that. But slowly, slowly, for whatever thing you are dependent on China, reduce that. So you must have seen there's this policy of countries, especially USA. What they're trying is, if there is a company unit in China, manufacturing unit, let's look for alternatives. So that companies deciding that we'll not stay only in China, we'll look for some alternative like India. Maybe they'll come to Vietnam. This started especially after COVID-19. Okay, India tried, but somehow many policymakers were saying that we failed. All the companies should have come to India, but many have gone for Vietnam and all. Right? Now see what is happening. China is observing this thing that yes, you people are leaving. Okay, you people have planned this thing that you will decouple your economy and you will grow. You want to stop China as such, all these things. Now China is growing because of one thing, that is export. Because it is producing goods in a cheap price. That's why this manufacturing segment is there. That's why their export is so much. Because all manufacturing facilities are there and they will be exporting. Because of export, they have got so much amount of money with them. The moment their manufacturing sector will go down, their export will go down. And if their export goes down, the amount of money they are earning, that will also go down. And see the impact. Right now, Chinese population, it is aging. Their age, if you see, it is increasing. So how it happens? If your population is very young, the pressure on government is very less to spend on you. They'll just give you education and they'll help you with skills. Rest you people will manage everything. But when that aging happens, then government will have to come up with some social security, some insurance they have to provide, healthcare sector they have to provide, pension they have to provide. All those pressures will be there, right? And when the population is young, there is a lot of population available to work. You people can go and work in the manufacturing sector with very low cheap labor, we call it, with low cost. Why companies set up their manufacturing unit in China is because of the cheap labor available in China. That was available for a very long time. But now their income has also increased. Now they don't have that number of people available to work at that cost. And there is a pressure on government also. So now Chinese government is observing all these things. That because of this decoupling, slowly their export might go down. This will happen. Now if export goes down and the pressure is high, then it will create a lot of problem for China. Understand one thing, Chinese economy, whatever GDP you see, it is more export led. They are earning through exports. You see, this is their insecurity. Internally, they are not so strong when it comes to economy. It is an export led economy. So if export goes down, that will be problematic, and this will create problems in their internal affairs. Okay? So how China looks at it now? China looks at it that who is my rival now? If manufacturing units are removed from China, then where will they go? Then they look at some countries like, as I said, India or Vietnam. Some companies are going to India, some companies are going to Vietnam. Now the point is, who is the main rival? in Asia, who is the main rival? It's India. Very clear. India's electronics sector, as far as manufacturing part is concerned, electronics or this new technologies which are coming, there we are doing decent, we are doing good. And this is something China is observing, and now their geopolitical necessity is, geopolitical necessity because we are neighbors and China has to dominate this region. So China will have to ensure and do anything to stop India's growth, to stop India's overall power. And one of that major factor of power is your economy. If you're economically strong, then you can increase your power. You can spend on military, technology, etc. So that China will have to do. That is the geopolitical necessity. But to do this geopolitics, they will make use of geoeconomics. What is geoeconomics? When you make use of economic tools to ensure that your geopolitical things are done. Whatever geopolitically you want to do, you will do that using something related to economy. So now see what is happening. We have this Apple company, right? Apple's manufacturing unit is there in, I think, Tamil Nadu and Karnataka. Okay, and that is handled by this company called Foxconn, right? Now what China is doing? In this Foxconn company, so many Chinese engineers were working in India, and overall India's this sector, electronic sector, is doing good. So what China did? Suddenly, they removed those engineers from this Foxconn unit in India. Now what is the idea? Because this sector is growing, overall India will grow. They will do good in this particular segment. So let's do one thing, we'll not provide them this technical expertise and all, remove them. Okay, and why they are able to do this is because of the Chinese economy model. You see, there is difference between the way India or America work and China works. In India or in America, private sector works more or less in a very liberal manner. China, the government cannot impose anything, means government cannot call and tell you that you will remove some people from your company. But China, this can happen. This is something we call as this command economy. This is something common in China, and that's how they are utilizing that part. Getting the point? So overall, are you getting the geopolitics and geoeconomics aspect? Yes? At least the basics? Good. Lot of mehnat. Now, you see, the tools China is using. Export restrictions of key technologies, rare earths, capital goods. What they do is, China has got reserves of rare earth metals. Now, the new technologies that we are developing for our electronic sector also, we need some rare earth metals and all. And China has got that. So what China is doing? It is stopping that supply. See, understand again, that supplying something, that's part of the economy. Why they are stopping it? To serve their geopolitical purpose. They don't want you to grow. It is their business. You see, by sending it, they are also going to earn money. Are you getting this point? It's good for them. They are ready to make loss for themselves because your loss is ensured. Getting it? So this is one thing. There is ban on these engineers, machinery transfer, etc. Then they do this thing, currency manipulation. What they do is they try to change this exchange rate. So what happens is, when exchange rate is changed, they can increase the export, because as compared to dollar, let's say $1 is equal to 80 rupees. You make it $1 is equal to 90 rupees. When you change such stuff, you can increase your export. So that's something China does many a times. And that's what even Trump doesn't like. Trump, that's why, makes fun of China many a times, that they are currency manipulators and all. Even they say it for India also, but we don't do it the way China does. Okay? And they use this command economy model which I discussed. Now, look at this. China's internal contradiction right now. What is happening? As I said, internally, this is Shashi Tharoor's view, that they are export-led economy. This shows that they are internally not very strong. First of all, right now they have this real estate crisis. They've developed so many buildings and nobody's there to stay over there. What will you do with this? Okay, then there is unemployment issue in China also. Then this People's Bank of China, like our Reserve Bank of India. Reserve Bank of India many times goes for rate cut. They reduce the interest rate on loans. So if less interest is being charged on the loan, banks will give more loan, people will take more loan because interest rate is very low, right? This is what government or RBI does in India also. Why do they go for this thing? Because they want to expand the economy size. For that they do this. Now here, Chinese bank, they are doing this rate cut many a times, but still internal demand is not increasing. Internal demand, which is supposed to increase, that's not happening. We also did this thing, right? When COVID and all happened, then also, and many times if you observe Reserve Bank of India, either they will increase the rate or they will reduce the rate. And what will be in their mind? What is the inflation? They want to control inflation and they want to ensure that the economy should grow. So for that they will take such action. China did that, but it seems nothing is happening internally in China. That demand is not growing. This is the vulnerability of China. That is something we are talking about. Okay, and they heavily rely on export, suppressing this domestic demand. Okay, so overall we get just one point. China is domestically, Chinese economy doesn't seem to be strong. That's the core argument of this. Clear? Now as a suggestion, what Shashi Tharoor suggests, what India should do in this case, because if this is how things are going to work, they're going to stop supply of important things, some important raw materials, important technical expertise, engineers. If this is the way they are working, and they're going to do this again in future, and we have to ensure our growth also in particular sectors. In that case, we have to strengthen our domestic manufacturing. So we have to internally become strong on this. So this campaign we started of Atmanirbhar Bharat, especially after COVID, right? So Modi ji was not like he was just to make you people happy, he started this campaign. It was genuine necessity of the time to become Atmanirbhar. Otherwise, this geopolitics is going to destroy you. Okay? Then build tech sovereignty. When they are not sending their engineers, it is better you make your own. You build that technical expertise, put your money on research and development, put your money on semiconductor manufacturing facilities, etc. All these things you need to do. Reduce dependence on Chinese components. Because see, why China is using this geo-economic tool is because we are dependent on China. The moment you're not dependent, doesn't matter. Just like as I talked about America and Russia. Russia is not dependent on America. So whatever Trump says, it doesn't matter to Putin. Yes? But the moment China says something, it will matter to Putin. Okay? So that dependence matters. Then tackle the bureaucratic delays and infrastructural gaps. Now, problem with India is very slow bureaucratic working. That's the model difference between Indian working style and Chinese working style. So there is something we need to work in this aspect. And position India as a reliable global partner in the new value chain. So we're creating this value chain. Value chain, what do you understand by it? Supply chain, value chain, these terms you must have heard. Heard na these terms? These are common terms. So simply see, when you look at something you're using, let's say I'm using this mobile phone. Maybe it is possible that the design was made in America, right? Let's say this screen was made in some other country, Korea. Some other part is made in China, some other part made somewhere else. Then it was assembled in some other country, right? Then the transportation is involved, marketing part is involved, sales part is involved. All these things are involved. When you produce one good or one service, so many steps are there, so many things are involved. That entire structure is part of the supply chain. Okay, each stage adds some value. So we call it value chain. Okay, so in this value chain, we want to reduce role of China and bring our own. Getting it? So that is something this person is trying to say. Any doubt on this? Clear? At least basic part is clear? Very good. Now this one is not so important, but okay, we can discuss. They're talking about something called judicial overreach. So there is this case involving Rahul Gandhi. So if you remember, this Galwan incident took place wherein Chinese army, Indian army, they were fighting on the borders. Yes. Now Rahul Gandhi had made one statement in his yatra something. So that statement was like, the Chinese army member thrashed the Indian army guy and all. Now after that, one officer from this BRO, he filed a case, this defamation case against Rahul Gandhi, and the case went to court, then went to Supreme Court and all. Now what happened in this case, none of our business. One thing that is interesting over here, that court made one statement. See, no action is taken as such for this line or this statement, but court made this statement: if you were a true Indian, you would not say all this. Okay, this court said to Rahul Gandhi. If this statement would have been made in parliament by some party member, no problem, we would not have taken this seriously. But when judge is making such a statement, then this creates some problem in our mind. We expect judiciary, executive and legislature to work separately and independently. If judiciary works the way the executive wants, or the government in power wants, then where is the separation of power? Where is the autonomy? Right? And that is a clear path towards a dictatorial or authoritarian trends. So that's why we always try that this should not happen, and we should keep these two separately. This was not the statement a judge should have made, and that's why they're using this term judicial overreach. When judiciary crosses its own border, that's called as overreach. When they're taking any action beyond its jurisdiction or beyond its legitimate authority, that will be considered as its overreach. Okay, so it's just a basic criticism against judiciary is what we see over here. Nothing specific as such. Now what kind of impact it might have when you're criticizing? Now this is like you're aligning with the party in power, right? So this is something not good. Second thing, when any such action, any such words are being used for any member of opposition party, so this can set a trend. You take one action, let's say today you're doing this action, tomorrow you'll take some other action, and this will stop the dissent, or the opposition parties will not be in a position to exercise their freedom of speech and expression, which is not good for democracy. Okay, so even if it's a minor thing, a judge making a statement, it's a big deal for the constitution, for the entire structure of democracy. It's a risky move. Okay, these authorities hold lot of responsibility. That's what we are saying. Okay, good example for maybe ethics. Yes, that's it. Any doubt on this? Yes.
The freedom of speech.
What freedom of speech? What?
Fundamental.
Yeah, fundamental right. Yes. Any doubt? No. Zero. Okay then. Thank you so much.
Yeah.